I can surround myself with people that are better than me at something, then it's going to heighten my abilities, right? It's going to take me up a notch. My grandfather used to tell me, if you are the smartest one in the room, find a new room.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are. We are live with the Provoke Coach podcast. Thank you all for tuning in. Whenever you tune in, whether it's now live with all of us or you're going to be doing it later, we just ask you, hey, go ahead, subscribe, share, like, post, do whatever you got to do. Comment if you're live here with us today. I have a very special guest. This woman I have been following for quite some time now. We've been kind of reconnecting just recently. And I got to tell you, this woman, her mission with her company is it's so attractive for anybody that's listening that runs a business right now. You're going to absolutely love this. Erin Longmoon, thank you so much for being our guest.
Thank you, Clinton. I'm really, really excited. I love doing this. Let's talk.
Yes, let's chat. Well, look, there's going to be a lot of people that may follow you. They may follow me, but maybe they don't follow us together. They don't know maybe who you are. Some people maybe want to fill in the gaps. Can you kind of let us know present day, who is Erin? What do you do? What's your company about? Right?
All right. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Erin, and I am the CEO and founder of Zephyr Connects. And our little company helps small business employers attract, hire, and retain their ideal fit employees, which to us is, the employee that's going to fit your culture, your leadership style, your team dynamics, the role itself and the job duties, just the whole package. And we know in small business world, if you need a team of people like that in order to really propel your business to the next level. So that's what we're all about. And our mission is actually through those efforts is to eradicate toxicity in the workplace.
Awesome. And I guess you start with really finding that ideal fit. I guess let's kind of peel that back, for business owners and leaders out there, what does that really mean, the ideal fit?
Yeah, well,
Because that can mean a lot of things, right?
yeah, it really can. It really can. And I think that for us, at least as ever, what we've learned over the years is that every company has a unique sort of value proposition or a unique culture that is just theirs. And so in order to find employees that are going to work really well, your version of an A player, your version of a great employee is what we call your ideal fit. And like I said, it sort of goes way deeper than the job title and the experience that the person might bring to the table. It also includes they must fit with your culture. They must resonate with the core values of your company and that mission. If you have a company mission, you want people who really stand behind that mission. You also need people who are going to work with your team dynamics. What kind of a team environment do you have? Are you collaborative? Do people generally work in solo? What's that like? And what phase of business are you in also as a piece? Are you in an early stage company? Are you in high growth mode? Are you a legacy business? All of those kind of require a different type of employee to fit well and to help you elevate, like I said, your company or to achieve your goals. So, the ideal fit is someone who kind of, fits that profile. You have to create this profile of what that is. And then you're looking for employees that fit that. And that's what we call the ideal fit. Because again, for you, Clinton, at Provoke Coach, who might be a really terrific, let's say, office manager is going to look really different than who's going to be a great office manager for us. Right. So our ideal fit office manager is different.
Now, do you think that, and it's funny that you say that. I think that they put people into buckets, I guess, and candidates, right, into buckets. Well, they have to fit this criteria. They have to be able to do this type of work. Well, you're right. An operations manager or even a sales manager or any of those types of positions, they are different for different companies. Right. So how do you help business owners, especially new and small business owners, how do you help them with this ideal fit? Like, what do you eliminate right away? I guess, what is the biggest challenge that these business owners run into at the beginning?
Well, I think what they really have to have first, honestly, is a connection again to what we talked about, the core values and mission. Yeah. You need to know what those things are in order to really get your ideal fit team pulled together and build that team. So we help our clients, if they don't come to us with those core values or they don't come to us with that culture kind of description, we ask questions, we kind of coach them, to try to uncover what those things are. And we really have to start there, because even us with the work we do with recruiting and employment brand marketing, like we can't do any of those things without truly knowing the sort of the brand story, almost, if you will, of that business. Right. So you have to go there first. And then you have to also understand your company. You've got to understand the culture, like your leadership team. How do you work together? What are the strengths? What are the weaknesses? What kind of people do you lead the best, most effectively? Things like that. So you kind of have to look under the hood, so to speak, and really dig a little bit deeper about who is this company? What makes them unique? What makes the different parts and pieces and departments unique? And even if you're starting out, you may not have all these things articulated, but they all exist. Right. So core values exist whether you can talk about them or not, because we all live by them every day. So, what we do is we try to help uncover what those are. And then we keep peeling away the layers. So core values, mission, culture. Okay, now let's get into the position. And if somebody comes to us, let's say with a brand new position, they've never hired a sales manager, for example, and they don't know what a sales manager's qualities should be, what's going to be the right sales manager for them versus another company. Again, you just have to dig deep. You got to ask very provoking questions. You like that? And and really get people to think about these things. You got to do homework. I think that's a big difference between hiring your ideal people and really building your dream team versus just hiring people to fill seats because the seats available. That's more of like reactive versus a more proactive approach.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because I guess I would ask you, probably, or really, what is the biggest challenge for business owners? So besides some of them maybe not having a mission and maybe not having core values and not really starting there, like, let's say that they didn't have the business background that, a lot of people have. They didn't even know that that was a thing.
Right.
They just had a business, because there's so many businesses out there. They start selling, shirts online, and then all of a sudden they blow up. And, here they got to fulfill, right? And they got to back up a retail, type, setup. What are their biggest problems, I guess, at the beginning? Where do they make the mistake?
Well, I think part of I mean, this is a loaded question, actually, Clinton.
Sure.
I think there's multiple answers to that, but I think that
I want
part
all
of the
of them.
one, I think part of the one that I see frequently, and I remember having my aha moment too at this. It's like we go into business just wanting to do our business first, our trade, our thing,
Right.
and then you have to wake up one day. If you start hiring people and you've got a team, you have to wake up and realize your job is now changed. You're no longer just the CEO or this accidental entrepreneur who's selling t-shirts. You're now a leader. You are now an employer. One of your most important jobs is now about leading that team and building that team and developing your team. That is now your most important job. So we have to have a mindset shift that happens at some point. It could be your first employee for some people, but it could be the 10th employee for some people. It could be the 40th. Who knows? I think for everybody that journey is a little bit different. Yeah. But I do think that once you get to that place where you woke up and you're like, wow, really, my most important job now is my team, then everything changes. Your whole perspective on, again, like the importance of having an ideal fit team changes, and you almost have to have that. So that's one challenge or hurdle that you kind of have to get over. And it can be very shaky. It can shake you a little bit. You wake up a day, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm now responsible for these people. This is my job. I didn't go to school to learn how to be a leader. What do I do now to be a good leader? How do I develop my team? I mean, you really can all of a sudden get into this almost panic mode. So you got to take a deep breath and realize there's a ton of help out there. You're not alone. There's a lot of great resources. So you can turn yourself into a great leader for sure, but you got to then have intention. You have to decide that's what you want, that kind of stuff. So, and then in terms of other pain points, like the practical pain points can be, like in this job market, just finding good people is just incredibly hard. Finding any people is incredibly hard, ideal fit or otherwise. So, the amount of time, I think, is one of the biggest pain points, I guess you could say, a lot of our clients are facing when it comes to trying to build a team. Is it's taking a significant number of hours from people who are doing it themselves, small business employers who generally do it themselves. It's taking a significant amount of their time. And so then they're struggling with running their business and, serving clients and customers and overseeing the operations. So that's a huge pain point too, that people are experiencing.
Well, and I guess you're right. I think from, in the job market that we're in right now, it's almost like it's changing like real estate changes, right?
Yeah, correct.
There's just ebbs and flows that are taking place to where all of a sudden, every business owner out there is offering unlimited vacation. Like,
yes,
you can take as much vacation as you want, which I think is kind of a quirky benefit because anybody in their right mind, if they haven't been working for a while due to the pandemic, they finally get a job, right? And they're not thinking about taking time off, right?
Right.
Job, for the next, but that's also put the brakes on people kind of sitting back and really taking their time figuring out the right company too.
Correct.
I would imagine that that's the flip side of this, is that those ideal fits, are they ideal? Are they holding off? Are they playing the soft game?
Right.
I think, I mean, you and I both know that that type of person and that, how do you want to say, like the culture is of working has changed a little bit since when we were brought up.
Huge since you and I have been brought up. Absolutely. Absolutely. Major shift. Yes. And
so what have you seen since you've been in this space for a minute now? I mean, what kind of changes have you seen? I guess recently, and then I guess over time as well.
Yeah. So the more recent change, just to speak to that, because that's such a hot topic right now, and it is a pretty significant shift, I think is similar to what you're saying. I mean, candidates are now getting more interested in who their ideal company is and who is their ideal leader and who is their ideal team. And, they are reevaluating. I think that, I think that the pandemic to some degree brought up sort of an existential crisis for a lot of people. It's that moment to step back and go, okay, whether it affected me personally or not, whether I got ill or not, whether I lost somebody or not, it is such a vast epidemic that we're dealing with here that you're like, oh my gosh, life is really short. It really is. And look at this thing that we have no control, very little control over, not no control, but very little control over, and what it's doing to people. So, okay, whoa, wait, I got to stop and kind of reevaluate my life. And so I think we're getting a lot of people, employees going, I want more than what I've been getting. And it's not so much that, I don't believe anyway, that it's that people necessarily feel like they're being taken advantage of or anything like that. It's just they're really evaluating and wanting lives that they love and wanting lives that they feel inspired by, and they want to feel good going to work, and they want to enjoy the significant amount of hours that we spend at work, which to me is an extremely reasonable request. Like, I think it's a long time coming. I think that the pandemic just accelerated something that was already happening.
Yeah.
It just amplified it. It gave us that pause to really stop and go, yeah, this is what I want. I want something better. I want something more where I feel aligned. I feel like I'm connected to what I'm doing. Even if your position is, like an hourly employee level position, everyone wants to feel connected.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. So I think that's a huge shift that we're seeing in the culture of work. So candidates are doing more of like asking us deeper questions. Tell me more about this company. Tell me more about the leadership. Like, they're asking more provoking questions. Oh, there's that word again. I'm not even doing that on purpose, Clinton. It's just happening.
It just happens.
It's just happening. Yeah. So I think that, candidates are getting more equally invested in trying to determine if the company that we're talking to them about is really the right fit for them as well. So it's going both ways.
Yeah, it really is going both ways. And I think that, and I guess you'll tell me more about what you think about the virtual landscape, and that working from home dynamic was thrown in the wheel. Like, I remember when a company that I was working with, they wanted to go more remote, and they wanted to be more of a virtual company. And this was way before the pandemic. And I was managing a sales team there, and I'm like, wait a minute. So where does that leave me? It was a big thing. But that's what I do all day. I walk around. I ruffle the feathers. How am I going to see? Because as a leader, you want to be able to look at somebody and pick up their body language, pick up what kind of mood they're in, pick up what kind of, headspace that they're in for the day, because that's going to tell you how you need to approach this person. How am I going to motivate Erin today? I could tell something's bothering her. She walked in, she's mad, her hair's a mess, whatever, and I'm just being, I'm being funny, but the reality of it is how do you approach? So now it's virtual. Now, anybody, you could be wearing shorts, you could be, you could have a beer next to you, you could be doing whatever. It was a weird thing for me. Did you see a lot of that with the business owners? Were they just freaking out like, how am I going to do this?
Yeah, there was. Yes. So some of our companies, some of our clients are settings where they cannot be virtual, period. They're like construction companies, things like that, right? Like, you just can't. But for the ones that did, yes, there was some panic and some not understanding, like, how are we going to manage this? Of course, there were even simple logistic issues like technology and stuff like that. But no, we did see that. And I think it's interesting because, it sort of peaked with this level of, oh my gosh, how are we going to make this work? And everybody's sort of panicking and frantic and trying to figure it out. And then it sort of levels out a little bit. And now you're at a place where you get to start asking more like, I don't know if interesting is the right word, but just more meaningful questions. Like, how are we going to maintain the culture while we're in a virtual setting? How am I going to maintain connection? Like you're saying, like, how am I going to check in with my team to know if they're having that bad day, or if they're, you know, on cloud nine, and who needs me today and who doesn't need me today, and all of those things. And it's, you know, it's a conundrum. It's not perfect. It is not perfect. Right. We've been virtual from the beginning. So, you know, since 2017, we've been virtual. It's always been something that we've had to keep at front of mind all the time. And we have to make very intentional efforts to have a culture. But if you ask anybody at Zephyr, they will tell you we have an extremely strong culture that anyone on my team could describe to someone easily, you know, because we put that much intention behind it. You can no longer take for granted the ability to just walk in a room and read your room, you know, and know who needs you, who doesn't, who needs support, whatever. You can't take that for granted anymore. You've got to create that space.
Yeah. So, well, and especially in the, you know, in the sales game, what I saw that it changed a huge dynamic, because that company did end up going virtual 100% before the pandemic. And we did phenomenal because I had to, as a leader, change the way that I managed the team. Wasn't about how good of a salesman they were to me anymore, because I was managing salespeople. So of course they're like kids, right? They're always going to try to talk you into how awesome they are. But I was strictly making decisions based on performance and numbers. And I'm like, look, I can't babysit you anymore. Like, turn in a good number and you're the best, you know? And it changed things, you know, for the company. Of course, they did awesome and it was great. But it really, I think, put my back against the wall with changing leadership style and not being able to walk in and look at the room and see what's going on. More effective questioning as a leader and as a manager. I would imagine it was a huge blessing in disguise for a lot of companies that a lot of companies I work with are like, look, it was a huge blessing. Like, thank God this happened. I mean, it's horrible to say, but it really did create something with the business. Now, where do you see your company in this vision and this mission? Where is it going to go in the future? Because I got a feeling it's going to be awesome things. I mean, I know you guys have been growing. Where do you foresee the future?
Yeah, I think, well, our whole perspective and philosophy is to partner with our clients. You know, we really want partnerships. We're not transactional recruiters. And so we're here to solve a bigger problem than just filling positions. So again, I talked about at the beginning, we help people attract, hire, and retain. So it's like, you know, great, you got your ideal fit in. Now, how do you keep them engaged? How do you keep them from moving on to the next job? And in small business, employers really struggle with that because they can't necessarily just throw endless dollars and bonuses and profit sharing and, you know, all these very expensive ways. So it's like, how do you do that through other means? So, you know, I see us, you know, we're already starting some consulting, and I see that growing significantly in our future. We also are offering, we're going to be starting, I'm very excited about this. It's going to sound kind of silly at the surface, but let me explain it, because I think it's actually I'm really hoping it will be phenomenal. But one of the things that we have learned through time is about engagement is acknowledgement, right? And giving people acknowledgement and recognition, and just not even necessarily that they've done a good job, but just, I'm recognizing you because you're just a cool person. I'm just excited to have you on my team, you know, like just that. Right. And I happen to be a gift giver. It's one of my love languages. And so I love gifts, right. So we do a lot of gift giving here. I have a full budget for it. I love it. And we do it for gifts, or for our team. We do it for clients. We're big gift givers. And we have seen and learned that how powerful that simple act is of giving a gift. But then what's interesting is we've also learned Not everybody is a gift giver. Not everybody does have a love language of gift giving. It doesn't come naturally to figure out what is a gift that feels unique and personal to the person you're giving it to, which I think is a really critical piece to having gift giving be effective. Is it needs to feel like this gift I just got you is super thoughtful because I know that you love these, and like you are collecting them, and this color is the color that you don't have yet in your collection. You know, like that's a personalized gift. So we are going to be starting a gift service where we are going to take our superpowers of this like ability to give gifts in a personalized way and offer it to our clients to allow us to help them become great gift givers to their team. And, you know, if you look at the ROI on that, I don't actually have data points on me at the moment, but they're pretty staggering. The retention rate of companies that give gifts is significantly higher than companies that don't. It is such a powerful tool, right? Right. It's such a simple thing, but it's not easy for everybody to do. It's easy for me. It's easy for some people on my team, but it's not easy for everybody. So we're now going to offer this service, which is all about retention. And then the other piece is employment brand marketing. So, you know, we think of the 3 pillars. First, you have to attract people. You have to build a reputation. You got to build a reputation as a place people want to work. So that's employment brand marketing, right? So you have to spend some time there, and you got to know what to do, and you got to know where your type of employee is hanging out. You got to know what's important to them. You got to have the right messaging. So that's how you attract. And then obviously recruiting strategy, which is what we do, which is all about marketing and sales. And then you have the retention, which is great. Now I hired this team. What are all the ways to keep them? So that's what's our future. That's awesome. Yeah. We're so excited about it. And I think we're solving a much bigger problem that way, which is what we want to do. Yeah.
You know, and I think it's, you know, it's so powerful. I mean, the smallest gives of recognition. Like, I know that I've, you know, been in many seminars and mentorship sessions and coaching sessions about recognition and winning. You know, those are the 2 things that really drive people. You know, they want to win, you know, and they want recognition. You know, it's not always even money either. Like you're saying, like with these small gifts, I mean, it could be a corny little, you know, bobblehead figurine that is your favorite character, right? Like it could be one of those things, but you knew it was that person's favorite character. They know now every time that they look at that, like my daughter, you know, I have probably collected everything that she has ever given me, even the smallest little things. When she was 2 years old, she gave me this stick. Dad, this stick is for you. You know, it's this little wooden stick. I have it like in glass because it's awesome. Important to me because it came from her. And you're talking about really the same thing with your employees. You're talking about that same connection. With the employees to the business owner, that's powerful. It's thoughtful.
It's very powerful. And I think you're touching upon a thing about using your daughter. It's such a great example. I think what maybe has happened or did happen sort of back in the day, back in our day, and certainly back prior to our day, is that employees were not seen as humans. I mean, you know, they know they're humans, but that humanness was missing, and not seeing them as like, listen, I pay you a paycheck, do the job, go home on the weekends, be your human self there. You know, don't bring your feelings here. Don't bring who you really are here. Just right. I mean, that really was right or wrong, whatever.
I think that's on Netflix right now. I think I saw like a thing to where they, I kid you not, on Netflix, they have this, you know, maybe it's an advert. I don't know what it is, but I've seen it more than once now that you say that, to where they have something to where it will erase you thinking about home at work and then vice versa. So when you leave, you don't bring your work home, but you don't bring your personal life. And you know, what's funny is that as a leader, I used to tell my team that way back in the day when I first learned leadership, is like, look, you see where that door is right there. And that door was, you know, the front door of the place. Like, your problems stop there. Don't bring them in here. But also, hey, we don't want you to bring your work right outside here. Like, I don't want you, I'm not going to call you in the middle of the night. Like, go, you know what I mean? Be home. It's such a hard thing though.
But well, I think it's impossible, Clinton. I think
Yeah,
that's a
I
tall order. We're just not
yeah,
wired that way. I mean, even if you're not going
yeah,
to call at midnight, that person still might go home and talk to their spouse about their
sure,
day and how they didn't close that deal and how am I going to close
yeah,
that deal? And they're sitting there putting all this mental energy into how am I going to win this one? I need to win this one by tomorrow.
yeah,
And actually, as your employer, you're glad they're doing that, to be honest,
yeah.
because
Oh
they're
yeah, sure.
invested, right? They're engaged and invested. But so the point is, though, is that we cannot shut down who we
Right.
are and
Yeah.
just be a different person, bring, no problem, no emotion, no nothing into our
Right.
workplace. That's just not possible. So I
Right.
think that shift is partially what's happening too, as a part of this.
Yeah.
And people are wanting to be seen. And I actually think it's better for employers too. I show up at work my whole self. I do not leave. I not just say I don't talk about my private life to my team, right? But if
Right.
I'm having a rough day at home, I don't
Yeah.
go to work and totally pretend it doesn't exist. I just say, I'm having a rough day. This just may not be my A game day. And they're like,
Right.
okay, we got you. No worries. So it's not like it means you got to go and spill the beans and share every feeling and
Right.
every story. No, as a matter of fact, don't. That's not
Yeah.
appropriate. There are
Right.
boundaries, right?
Exactly.
But there is this fine line between expecting sort of robotic humans to have, no
Right.
connection to their private life at work and vice versa. It just doesn't work that way. So the idea of like your daughter and how special it was because it was a personal gift from your daughter to you, it's the
Yeah.
same thing when it is a personal gift or a personal gesture, even if that
Right.
gesture is like the words you speak to your employee because you're seeing the whole person.
Yeah.
Then that's when they're going to take that thing and go put it behind glass because
Exactly.
it has a deeper meaning and a deeper intention behind it. So,
Well, yeah, and it's going to go a lot further too,
mhm,
because I mean, look, we've all been there to where, you make a lot of money doing something and it still
mhm,
doesn't fill the void. Or you've
mhm,
spent a lot of money and it still doesn't do anything. It doesn't
right,
fill the void. It just temporarily, maybe fixes something, but it doesn't really have that longevity that you're speaking about. Because
right,
you're right. I mean, I still have
right.
the stick, and it's
Yeah,
worth absolutely nothing. But to me, it's worth, gold,
right, right.
which is quite interesting. Now, where did all this come from? I guess,
It's a good question.
let's roll back the time a little bit.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a
have
good question.
you always been heavily involved in HR and I know consulting and business? Like, where did this begin? Let's go all the way back.
Wow, all the way back. Okay,
Yeah.
wow. That's a really big story there, I guess. No, to answer your question, I've not always been in HR, but I have
No.
always been a very strong advocate for a good place to work, a healthy place to work. And unfortunately, in my history, I have not. I just seem
Mhm.
to have not, for whatever reason, which I now think has to do with this journey, but did not work at great places to work.
Yeah.
I've worked in many toxic workplaces. I've got some doozy stories, and I'm sure up there with some of the best of them. But I was always a voice. Honestly, I got
Mm.
fired from many a job. I admit it. Because
Right.
for one, I'm a visionary, and visionaries don't do well as employees. For one, but
Right.
at the same time, I was also not the kind of person who's going to keep my mouth shut when I saw something that wasn't,
Yeah.
when people were not being treated fairly or well. I'm probably most employers' nightmare. So thank goodness I'm an entrepreneur now and no one ever needs to employ me again. Knock on wood. But yeah,
Right.
really, I back in the day. So, I was born a long time ago. And so I grew up in an era where it really was that more robotic kind of thing. Like,
Right.
yeah. And so it never resonated with me. I don't know where that came from. I'm wired that way, Clinton. I care about
Yeah.
people. One of my core
Right.
values is people matter. We matter. And we deserve to have a life we enjoy and that we wake up every day and we want to go to work and we're excited about going to work. Sure, we have
Yeah.
bad days, but overall, I'm excited about the work I do. And a lot of times I felt that the work itself was something I enjoyed, but my work environment was one I didn't enjoy. And
Mm.
so I was like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And then I worked for a company that was totally the opposite. They were an amazing company to work with. They respected, and I really started to understand they listened to everybody. Everybody had a voice. Everybody's ideas were heard. Doesn't mean everybody's ideas were taken, but everybody it was a very safe place to speak up and say, you know, hey, this thing isn't working for me, or I'm noticing this. Have we ever thought about that? You know, whatever, just like you could talk, you could speak up. And the owners were always very appreciative of that. They kind of saw their employees as sort of their eyes out in the field, you know, whatever that meant, whether it was the office field or out in the field. And this was a company that does in-home senior care support. And so, you know, the people who went out and dealt with the seniors were the eyes for the company, for the owners of what's going on, what are their needs, you know, that kind of thing. But they had a lot of heart, I guess is what it comes down to. They cared. And I was like, oh, this is how you do it. This is how you get people to be excited about going to work every day. I was doing the same job. You know, my day-to-day job was the same, but I actually got up every morning and was excited to go to work. I looked forward to the people I spoke to, you know, worked with. So
to be around those people, right?
Yeah,
and I think, you know, and it's not always, I think people have a misconception of what is that definition and what does that mean to where you enjoy to go to work. It's not always just to hang out with your buddies. It's not always to be just because you're close with everybody. So it's a big fun game that everybody goes through. No, though it's like in sports, kind of like you're surrounded by people that they want to win. You know, you're kind of a little bit competitive with them. You know, you want to fit in, but you also, everybody loves high-fiving if you're winning. Hey, let's roll up our sleeves team if we're behind. You know, to where they rally around each other. You know, that's really what it is.
You're working towards a common goal, right? Yeah. Like you're working towards a common goal, even if your role isn't, you know, I didn't go out and serve the seniors. I was the back office manager. I was the one who made sure those people got paid. I was making sure, you know, that the machine was running, right? But I felt connected to that mission and to those people in the field. And I wanted to make their jobs easier so that they could achieve the mission and serve the clients. Right. So yeah, there was a connectedness and a knowledge that the sports team is a great analogy. When you've got a rocking team that works really well together, you know, that's when everything just blows up and is amazing, right? You win Super Bowls, whatever. So it is the same idea behind that. And, you know, punitive approaches don't work, and old school ways don't really honestly work, and they kind of dehumanize people. And I honestly think that I've seen with clients that it dehumanizes the employer as well. Like it does. They don't want to really go to work and just, you know, criticize their employees all day, but they just don't know any different yet. They can't, you know, they will, but go ahead.
Well, and it's funny that you said that, because I think that, you know, if there's people that are listening that are maybe, you know, in a leadership role and they've been used to working in this type of way, right? To where it's not fun. Like, no, I don't care who you are. It's never fun to be the jerk, right? That's always coming into the office, and, you know, people have a misconception. That's not a leader. That's not even a boss. Not a good one anyways, right? Like to give people a hard time, but they don't like that either. I think you're right. Like, people have this misconception like, oh yeah, he's just like that. No, he's not, you know, and that's the toxicity, I guess, that you're helping these clients out with as well, right? It's not, you know, it's not just about the ideal fit. It's about being the ideal boss and the ideal company, right? And the ideal environment and culture, right? To be able to bring that in. So definitely. When did you get the bug to get out on your own then? I mean, here you were working with a company that they were what you were looking for as far as that culture. Is it you just wanted to then take that to the next level with yourself? How did that work?
Actually, I'll be honest, I didn't know that's what I wanted to do yet. You know, just like a lot of people's stories, like even if you had asked me a decade ago, you know, about my work history, I would have been like, man, I just had a whole bunch of shitty bosses, a whole bunch of shitty jobs, just would have badmouthed, you know, whatever, not realizing that I was actually on a journey, and on a path to a life purpose. Because I didn't know that. And so when I left that company, I actually left that company because I am a visionary and I tend to get bored. And unfortunately, I got to a place where I was like, I feel like I can't do anything more here. And it was a small business. So I then went on, I decided to be a business coach. I'd been an entrepreneur. No, I've been a glorified entrepreneur before that. Like I had been created a job for myself prior to that on multiple occasions. I actually owned a house cleaning company, put myself through college that way with employees, so I wasn't my first rodeo. Zephyr's not my first rodeo. And so I was like, I've got a lot to offer as a coach. So I worked with a lot of small business employers. I've never done corporate. I've tried it for 6 weeks and I left immediately. It was not my deal. So, I worked with small businesses and and I was helping them create systems, processes, getting all of that institutional knowledge out of like the owner's head onto paper and into ways that they could, train people. And then, and that's just because as a business administrator, which is what I did in my history, that was a lot of my position. What I did for my employers was the same idea. So I'm like, let me go do this for a lot of different small businesses because, it's sort of like you get it done and then you get to move on to the next. And each one is very exciting. So that's what I did for a few years. And then as I was doing that, though, I started seeing this pain of small business employers really struggling with recruiting. And I was like, oh, I've done recruiting. I did it as a part of other jobs. I was like, let me take that off as your coach. Let me take that off your plate. They were already working 80-hour weeks. They couldn't fit in another 20, 30 a week to try to hire someone. So I did it for them. And then it just sort of had that aha moment of like, oh my gosh, this is really the biggest pain that I can serve, that there isn't a resource out there for small businesses, very specifically designed from the ground up to serve small businesses. All the other recruiting options were outrageously expensive, don't care about that culture piece. And, you cannot hide a bad.
And it's such a cutthroat business as well.
Oh, it's such a cutthroat business. I don't even like calling us recruiters. Like that's why we're Zephyr Connects. We're connectors is what we actually do. Yeah.
Well,
we're like matchmakers.
Because, recruiting also has obviously the stigma behind just this money back and forth bait, and switch. Let's doll your resume up and make it look better than what it is. And going through this nonsense of it's just a sale,
It's just a sale. Yes.
I don't know if you remember, there was this movie about this headhunter and he was just ruthless, and like his family hated him. And he was, getting into all sorts of trouble, nonetheless, it just gives this bad stigma, right, with recruiting in general. And I like, the connects because you are connecting the ideals, right? The ideal company, the ideal fit, right? And really connecting them. So you got into this and then you've grown it now to this point. You grew that before the pandemic. So so that was probably a pretty wild ride over the last couple of years. I know that you and I connected a couple years back, and and it was pretty wild going on then. We were kind of unsure.
It was really rough. We were started it in November of 2017. So by the time the pandemic hit, we weren't old, we were growing, but we were a young company. We still are technically. And the pandemic hit and all of our employers, all of our clients are small businesses, and everyone just said, stop. Halt every single thing we're doing, just, and so it was a little, it was really rough. We suffered greatly. There was a time, I am not shy. I'm very transparent. There was a time when I had $250 in our bank account and I'm like, oh my God, I don't think I've cried so much in my life about having, I had to lay off half my team. It was a rough road. And then, you're just kind of hanging on for dear life, trying to figure out the best ways to pivot, how to figure out the best ways to help your clients through this very oh my God, how are we going to survive this time? So there was a lot of just peer support. then it just changed. I don't, it just all of a sudden people are like, all right, I'm comfortable. I'm
Time to
going to
get,
start hiring
yeah,
again. And it was
yeah.
like a fire hose.
Right. Well,
Man,
but that's powerful though for you and your positioning, I mean, because you're right. I mean, yeah, it may have hurt, but what a blessing, because it's almost like everybody got, a lot of your clients, I'm assuming, I know a lot of my clients, it was like fresh start, because same thing for me, like, and then when it was time, everybody's like, look, let's get this party started. Now we really do get to start from zero, because I'm sure that you've dealt, where you kind of take over and you work with these companies, and, you do walk into, a bit of a shitstorm, and you kind of walk into, all these challenges, to where this kind of allowed, some major growth for you.
I think
Which
that,
is
well, and I think that's
fantastic.
a part of the consulting piece came out of that too. It's like, how else can we really serve people, serve clients in a bigger way? And I think that like I said, it existential crisis for everybody. I think a lot of our clients, we have great clients. I mean, we just tend to attract ones that have a very similar mindset, but at the same time, a lot of them really deepened their commitment to creating a great place to work, and deepened their commitment to their team. And they definitely came to us like, we need to get rid of some people who just aren't the right fit. They're going to be an ideal fit somewhere else. Nobody is wrong here. Nobody is a bad employee. Nobody, I'm sorry, those people think you don't know, they're just not the right fit for your company. Right. So they're going to go be an A player somewhere else. And that's really important, to let them go find that. And so a lot of our clients did kind of say, we want to make some changes, and we really want to commit to this concept of culture fit and ideal fit. And so it's the blessing side of everybody taking that big pause and going, what matters, And so it's been a really beautiful thing for us. We had our biggest year last year. We had our biggest month in January ever. I mean, we're growing, and it's really, obviously we're lucky. I feel blessed every day that we're still here. And the pandemic obviously brought a lot of the same questions to us. I mean, the people we ourselves are developing our team and growing our team. They look different than the people we hired 2 years ago, 3 years ago. There's no doubt. They're different. Our ideal fit is a different person now. It's a different avatar, I guess you could say. And
right.
Yeah. So it's
that's awesome.
Yeah, it's been good. It's been very good. It was a rough road, but tell me an entrepreneur that's company has ever lasted more than 5 years who doesn't have a story like that, right? Like whether it was the recession, whether it was, a bad deal that went right. I mean, we all have our war stories, and I'm a better leader and a better owner for it, for sure.
Well, I think business owners, and I'm sure that you would agree, you have typically more losses than wins, right? It's not one of those. Hey, I'm batting 500, type thing. It's like, no, you probably got more losses than you do wins. It's just that you found your way, right? Like all the dust has settled, and now, here you are standing, such as a phoenix, going, okay, now everything is turned on. Well, I guess, as we're finishing up, I always ask this to all my guests. And I guess for you, it's definitely a two-part, because you work with so many business owners. And I know that, you're going to be working with a heck of a lot more. What advice do you have for the ideal fit, right? That person out there that is looking for that right culture. But then what advice do you have for that ideal company as well, to make sure that they have that culture?
Yeah. Wow.
And you can start with whichever one first. It doesn't really matter. What advice do you have for them?
Well, for candidates, the advice I would have is a couple of things, is to really ask very provoking questions. Like, feel free to dig deeper yourself. Ask them more about, well, tell me about the leadership style. Tell me a little bit more about the KPIs that you expect, and how do you support your team in reaching those KPIs? What kinds of things do you do with your team to help support them? Like, ask for real answers. And in my opinion, I think you should also ask to interview some of the existing employees. That's probably the number one tip I would give these days is ask if you can talk to some of the existing employees, ideally a peer, like someone you might work with directly. And then maybe a couple of other people who you will not necessarily connect with if it's a big enough organization. But what you're trying to do in those kind of mini interviews, you don't want to take up a lot of their time because they're busy, but is just try to get a picture of what is it actually like to work there. You know, you can hear the interviewer tell you all day long, but don't forget, they're also in a sales position in that moment.
Right.
They're trying to sell you on the job as much as they're trying to assess whether you're the right fit. So go talk to some people who are probably less motivated to fill the role and more interested in making sure that they fill it with the right person, and see if you can picture yourself in that role, you know, and with that company and with those people. So that's my tip to candidates. And then in terms of employers, I mean, I have so many tips. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, you definitely want to ask, you need to know those core values. The first thing that we do is you want to create this avatar, this sort of like profile of who your ideal fit employee is. And you need to do it for your whole company, and then you need to do it for the specific position. So you kind of got to break it down into two parts, because you are going to have this ideal fit sort of profile for your whole company, no matter the position. So you need to know what that is. You can't find your ideal fit if you don't know who you're looking for. So you need to have that. And we have we fill out a whole profile. Like we write it down. It's not just in our heads. And then certainly another tip, of course, is in the interview, don't just focus on the resume. You need to try to figure out who this person actually is. Who are they on the inside? What are their values? What kind of culture are they going to thrive in? And so you need to ask thought-provoking questions, story-based questions. You need to dig deeper. When somebody gives you an answer, dig deeper than just the answer they gave. Like, tell me more about that. You know, just simple questions like that. Yeah. But I mean, I've got 50 more tips, but because of time, I'm going to leave those two.
But those are some great ones, you know, I mean, because I think you're absolutely right. I think, especially for the candidates, I think, don't ask enough questions. And I remember interviewing people so many times over, and I wanted to just shake them and be like, you mean to tell me you have no questions? Like, I could have told them, like, yeah, you're going to be walking around on your hands all day. You know, they would have been like, oh, okay, great. You know, and I think that is truly, truly important, that, you know, but also it's a connection, it's a relationship, you know, like you said, with the business owners as well. Like, ask more questions. Don't just assume, like, you ask a couple of surface layer questions, you know. And I think I told you this story when we first met. I was coaching a company about, you know, really building their sales team out, and they really needed help. And I was just talking with one of the business owners, and, you know, I'm not going to name the business because they might be, you know, listening later on. You know, we always, you know, but the funny thing is that, you know, they had somebody waiting for an interview, and then the interview came and they sat with them, and it was a 5-minute conversation. And that business owner was just talking about how awesome they were and how much money they could make and the whole 9 yards.
Right.
Hey,
sales pitch.
It was 5 minutes and the guy was gone. And I was like, hey, how did that go? You know, I was just kind of razzing him a little bit. And he's like, oh, good. He's going out. We're going to get new hire paperwork going. And I was like, what do you mean we're going to get new hire paperwork going? Like, you hired that guy in 5 minutes? Like, how many questions could you ask? You know, and needless to say, they hired me that day because it was a learning experience, because I was like, guys, there's a reason why your turnover is like absolutely crazy. Not even, there's no process. There's no nothing. You're not asking the right questions. And, you know, I mean, that poor employee must have, you know, young kid, maybe it was his first job. He didn't care. He was hired. Like, he was in, he was like, yes, I got hired, you know, whatever it was. And you just have to ask, because that's how you find that ideal fit. You know, ask more questions, ask better questions.
And ask a lot of questions. Definitely.
And there's nothing wrong with that, because this could be your future, right?
Well, I mean, you're dating each other, and you know, you're about to commit to a relationship. Like, I do think that we need to start seeing this as a significant other in your life, because you're giving 40 plus hours in most cases anyway to this employer, and they're giving the same back to you. You're like, I want to make sure that I really like you and want to be around you. And it's not just about life. I'm reducing it down to a silly analogy, but I think you get the point. It's an important relationship, and you should invest in making sure it's the right one before you pull
it's
the
got to
trigger.
be, and there's got to be comfort, and it's got to be a two-way street.
Totally.
100% with that. Wow. Well, listen, we could definitely talk for another hour about this subject. I mean, this is just,
I know
this is just so awesome. But we do have to let our audience go. Where can they find you? Where can they learn more? I mean, I know you're pretty active on LinkedIn. I do know
you can find Erin Longmoon. I don't think you're going to find very many other Erin Longmoons out there, but I'm pretty easy to find. And then of course our website, which is under my name here at zephyrconnects.com. But yeah, find me on LinkedIn. That's a great way to find me.
And business owners and candidates, they can reach out to your company.
They can certainly reach out. Yeah, we don't typically represent candidates, but we certainly like to. Yeah, we love to meet candidates because you just never know. We could have their perfect job.
Right. Absolutely.
So yes,
awesome.
Definitely.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for being on our show today. I'm going to have you hang around just for a minute. We'll let everybody else go. Everybody else, wow, if you like this episode, which I know you did, you're going to have to go back and rewatch or re-listen to it once again to get all these nuggets. But definitely share it. Definitely leave a review, leave a comment. It'll be downloaded here shortly to all the iTunes and all the other platforms that you listen to, all of your podcasts and all of your good stuff, your good nuggets, if you will. Yeah. So thank you so much, Erin. I greatly appreciate it. And everybody else, we will talk soon. Let's provoke positive change in people's lives and, of course, your peak performance as well.